Episode 5 of The Judge from Hell begins with Daeon rushing Bitna to the hospital. After collapsing at the end of the previous chapter, she doesn't look in a great way. Arong and Mando are there too, and they watch as Bitna suddenly sits upright. The doctor believes Bitna's collapse has been caused by extreme stress. Bitna returns to the villa after her checkup, where our lovable granny Oh Mi-ja is there to greet her. The two trade scathing retorts to one another, with both discussing death and how good it'll be when the other passes away. It's a pretty funny encounter, to be honest, and immediately quelled when Jang Myung-suk arrives and starts blessing our Justicia for surviving and praising her belief in the Lord. However, these good vibes are soon interrupted as Daeon thinks over the previous cases. Although the crime scenes have been cleaned up, the incriminating piece of evidence left behind are the drink cans, and he knows this is Bitna's big tell. With the detective living across the hallway from her, Bitna is determined to learn as much about her human life as possible to blend in. She tasks Mando with finding this information by any means necessary, and this includes him heading to school undercover. With him gone, Arong messages and asks to meet. When Bitna slips out, Daeon happens to be following. He's not very stealthy about it though, and she easily thwarts him. Now, Arong wants Bitna to join her as there are rumblings about a group hunting down Satan who escaped from hell after stealing the Kylum. Demons dispatched to Seol and Hyungji meet regularly to exchange information. If they do manage to track down Satan and offer them to Lucifer and Baal, the person who does so is handsomely rewarded. Now, it's worth discussing the hierarchy in hell because Lucifer is the one in charge, and his second in commands are then Baal and Satan. Third in command happens to be Justicia. Baal and Satan rebelled, and as Satan could not defeat Lucifer, he abandoned his underlings and left. The wild card here though is the Kylum, which is an artifact that can apparently grant eternal life to its user. However, in order to use it, they need to find it first. The pair soon meet with Mando, who has information on Bitna that he's gained. As they all meet together, Daeon happens to be following. This time, the others don't realise, and he shows up right where the secret meeting for those who search for Satan are. Daeon storms in and looks to be in big trouble until Bitna manages to save him, calling him Poppy. It turns out everyone in the room are demons, and they use her insane demonic skills to cook delicious dishes. Wow, Gordon Ramsay would be proud. These guys operate under the guise of chefs to avoid detection. Daeon ends up seeing one of the men cry outside with an old man, and this show of emotion is apparently an offence for demons and could even result in their death. He also knows that Daeon is human, so they agree to keep each other's secrets. At least for now. Daeon believes the guy is a good soul and he heads home with Bitna, although the latter is very reluctant to walk alongside him given what happened at the start of the episode. Meanwhile, Mando shows up at church and immediately starts going crazy as the pastor reads out to banish Satan. With his special glasses and gloves, he does well to eventually compose himself. However, it's clear that he wants to be one with the Lord. Everything is brought to a crashing halt though when an emergency call is placed with the authorities. A family is killed except for the father, Yang Seon-bin, who is apparently the culprit. The murder weapon is on the ground along with a smashed phone. Daeon shows up not long after and sees everything for himself. The man is hysterical, one moment claiming it was him and the next unsure what happened or how he even got there. Yang Seon-bin seems to have multiple personality disorder. Alongside his confused persona, we also see the erratic 5th grader alter ego Kim Seo-yul. There's a third too, which seems to be the killer, Koo Do-wan. On tape, he confesses to the crime, but he's also adamant that Seo-yul keep his mouth shut. The whole performance oozes the same great acting seen in films like Split, and it also seems to explain the previous domestic violence cases that the police were called to at the property. This was all Do-wan's doing. The other officers aren't convinced though and chalk this up to an Oscar-worthy performance and don't think it holds merit. As for Daeon, he's determined to figure out what the right play is here. Speaking of right plays, Bitna struggles to find cases that involve murder. Mando has a whole series of cases for the courtroom, but eventually a family murder sees her perk up, and this is, of course, the Seong-bin case that Daeon is currently working on. When Mando returns with extra info, interrupting Bitna's romance K-drama binge watch that night, she hurriedly stops what she's doing. This is going to be the case for her. At the prison, things take a bad turn when the deceased's mother collapses on the ground, blaming herself for killing her daughter. She knew she was being abused by Seong-bin, but asked her to hold on. While she wallows in her grief outside, Daeon finds himself reliving painful memories too, upon seeing the gruesome crime scene photos. The big tale at the crime scene though happens to be Seong Bin's son's phone. Only this was severely smashed to bits, and he also messed up the names of the other personalities during the police interrogations, so we'll have to wait and see exactly who's telling the truth here. Bittner is assigned the case, much to the annoyance of Chief Judge Na, who believes she's acting out of character and irrationally. She phones through to Assemblyman Jeong, who grants her request to oversee this Seong Bin case. Apparently he's doing this because he sees her as, and I quote, a solid investment in an uncertain future. We'll have to wait and see exactly what this means. Anyway, the hearing goes ahead and the case itself sees an outcome of the death penalty if Seong Bin is found guilty. He looks set to plead his case, but his lawyer stands, shutting him down and pointing out he's recently suffered from amnesia. The prosecution want him to get a full psych evaluation to figure out what's happening, and suddenly, in the middle of the courtroom, it seems like Do-wan and Seo-yu are taking control as they fight it out and try to take down their lawyer. All the while, Bittner watches with a smirk on her face. After, she composes herself and decides that a full psychiatric evaluation is probably the best way to go and will need to be undertaken. The results of this will eventually decide if he's put to death or not. That night at the hospital, Judge Kang shows up dressed as a nurse. After taking out the guards, she decides to do her physical therapy, and as her eyes glow purple and she conjures a knife, Daeon happens to be waiting under the bed and grabs her ankle, which is where episode 5 comes to an end. So the Judge from Hell returns with another solid episode, this time with a new case that looks like it's going to rip the foundations of Bittner and Daeon's blossoming relationship to pieces. Whether Seong Bin has multiple personality disorder or not is a big point of contention, although the preview for episode 6 kind of ruins that, with Daeon's reveal of big evidence leaning in one direction. And of course, I'm not about to spoil that for those who haven't seen it. However, there's a good balance of comedy and drama in this episode, with the Satan hunting group a nice way of fleshing out more of the world and adding context to the hierarchy of hell. There must be a reason this was introduced here, and the Eternal Life trinket could be a way of perhaps elevating Daeon or Bittner so they live happily ever after, especially if this K-drama is going to go the romance route. Or it could even be a way of adding motivation for a new villain, like Satan himself. And who is Satan? They say he ran away, but personally, I think this could actually be the Assemblyman. This would kind of explain his whole shtick about a solid investment in an uncertain future, and the way that he's kind of watching over Justicia, but doesn't really have much of a stake in what she's doing beyond his son hooking up with her. But again, we'll have to wait and see where we go with that one. Regardless of all of these little threads, The Judge from Hell continues to be a really enjoyable K-drama. Roll on, episode 6. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.